Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this council meeting of the 19th of December 2023, which is being held in person here in the council chamber, Ferris Boulevard, South Morang, and the meeting is also being live streamed. And I note that this is the last council meeting for the year. I'm Lydia Wilson, Chair of the panel of administrators, and I'd also like to introduce my panel colleagues. Firstly, Peter Duncan.
Good evening, everyone.
And Administrator Christian Zara.
Good evening, everyone.
And I'd now like to introduce our Chief Executive Officer, Craig Lloyd, and ask that he in turn introduce members of the Executive Leadership Team.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Chair. So I'd like to introduce Emma Appleton, Director of Planning and Development, Agatha Hemilevsky, Director of Community Wellbeing, Debbie Wood, Director of Infrastructure and Environment, Frank Joyce, Executive Manager, Strategy and Insights, Janine Morgan, Executive Manager of Public Affairs, and at the table here, Jacinta Stevens, Executive Manager, Office of Council and CEO. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I note that there are no apologies this evening. On behalf of Council, I recognise the rich Aboriginal heritage of this country and acknowledge the Wurundjeri Willem clan and the Tongarong people as the traditional owners of lands within the city of Whittlesea, and I'd also like to pay my personal respects to elders past, present and emerging. And I'll now read our diversity and good governance statement. At the City of Whittlesea, we are proud of our diversity and the many cultures, faiths and beliefs that make up our community. We strive to be an inclusive, welcoming city that fosters active participation, well-being and connection to each other and this land. We commit as a council to making informed decisions to benefit the people of the City of Whittlesea now and into the future, to support our community's vision of a place for all. We have a number of acknowledgements this evening, and if I could firstly hand over to Administrator Zara for an initial acknowledgement.
Thank you, Chair. I'm delighted to kick off for us. We're once again looking to recognise and celebrate the wonderful people we have here in the City of Whittlesea with the 2023 City of Whittlesea Community Awards. I'm very excited personally to be part of the committee for these awards, and it is always amazing to see the calibre of nominations that come in and to hear about the selfless and very generous spirit of those people we're fortunate enough to have in our local community. Nominations are now open, and we have 5 award categories: Citizen of the Year, Young Citizen of the Year, Senior Citizen of the Year, Access and Inclusion Citizen of the Year, and Sustainable Environment Citizen or Group of the Year. Through you, Chair, I'd like to encourage everyone to think about people in their networks who they could nominate, and you'll find all the forms that you need to nominate someone on our website.
Thank you very much, Administrator Zara, and we obviously look forward to receiving many good nominations from our local community. If I could now hand over to Administrator Duncan for further acknowledgement.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to acknowledge Whittlesea Community Connections, and it's their 50th anniversary. And on behalf of Council, extend my congratulations to WCC. And they were established by Whittlesea residents to provide those in need to access critical support services. And Whittlesea Community Connections has grown over the years with more than 300 volunteers who work alongside just a small team of permanent staff to help deliver their services. And we here at Council are extremely proud to be supporting an organisation that does so much great work and in assisting our community. And it's through a range of services, including legal services, financial and health assistance programs. And we very much look forward to continuing in our partnership with Whittlesea Community Connections. So through you, Chair, congratulations to everyone at Whittlesea Community Connections.
Thank you very much, Administrator Duncan. I've got a couple of further acknowledgements and congratulations this evening. Firstly, into the recent art exhibition, I'd like to congratulate all of the art award winners of this year's City of Whittlesea art exhibition, which had the theme of the webs we weave. We were really fortunate to have 127 artwork entries that really showcased amazing talent across all forms of art. And what started as a community-driven initiative by local artist and community member Susan Duncan in 2005 has since become a long-standing tradition here at the City of Whittlesea, showcasing the many talents of our community members. I had the privilege of being part of the judging panel, which was very difficult for the Art Awards, along with Susie Duncan, and it was a really exceptional evening of celebration. So congratulations to all of the award recipients and everybody who submitted their works. And incidentally, you can actually have a look at our online gallery by visiting www.arts.whittlesea.vic.gov.au. My final acknowledgement this evening is in relation to Carols by Candlelight, which occurred last Friday evening, and it was an absolutely amazing event with many thousands of people in attendance. We had wonderful weather, and I really wanted to congratulate the many staff from across the organisation involved in putting together another really successful Carols by Candlelight. A particular acknowledgement to our community choir and the Diamond Valley Brass Band. We had 60 choir members, and from memory, the youngest member of the choir was only 6 years of age. They were absolutely fantastic and really helped to contribute to the atmosphere on the evening. And then just finally, as this is the final council meeting for the year, I'd really like, on behalf of administrators, to take this opportunity to you, CEO, and to the members of your executive leadership team, but also to the many wonderful staff right across the organisation, to acknowledge a huge effort over the past 12 months and a real sense of achievement. Thank you all for the contribution that you've made. And we'd also like, as administrators, to wish our community members and local businesses, those people who are celebrating Christmas, all the very best for the festive season and into the new year. So thank you for that. Administrators and officers, if you have a conflict of interest in any item on the agenda, you may verbally disclose the type and nature of the interest now, but you must also make a declaration immediately before consideration of the matter in question. Administrators, are there any items for which you have a conflict of interest to declare this evening?
No, Chair.
No, Chair.
And I also have no conflict of interest to declare. Do any officers present this evening have any conflicts of interest in any items on the agenda? There are no conflicts from officers in attendance. I now seek a motion to confirm the minutes of the following preceding meeting, which was the scheduled meeting of Council held on the 21st of November 2023. Could I have a mover?
So moved, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. And a seconder?
Seconded, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. I'll now put the matter to a vote. All those in favour of confirming the minutes? The motion is carried. If we now move on to public question time, Council allows up to 30 minutes for public questions, petitions or joint letters from our community to be read out by the CEO's delegate and responded to by the CEO. Any questions submitted that relate to matters outside the duties, functions and powers of Council is discourteous or disrespectful, defamatory or intends to prejudice or insult someone may be declined. All questions and responses will be included in the minutes of the council meeting. I note that we have actually received one public question this evening, and I'll now hand over to Jacinta Stevens, our Executive Manager, Office of Council and the CEO, to read the question.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. So we have one question this evening from Matthew Brown. The question is, can I please request reasoning of the general appearance of the municipality? The area has significantly become an eyesore with overgrown weeds in median, nature strips, overgrown and dumped rubbish. Send SNAP Solve unresolved. Our rates went up. We expect service to match this, and the community expectations of this has not been met. That's it.
Thank you, Jacinta. Could I ask our CEO to respond to that question?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Matthew, for the question. We know there have been some recent challenges with the appearance of public areas, and some of this is a result of industrial action taken by some of our staff during the negotiation of a new enterprise agreement. We're pleased that the action is now concluded following the successful negotiation of a new agreement. We have been working hard to catch up, and I'm pleased to advise that our hard waste collections are now back on track. With regards to overgrown grass and weeds, it can be very complex, as the responsibility for the maintenance of grass on roadsides and median strips varies. Council is responsible for local roads, while Vic roads are responsible for main and arterial roads. There is a list on Council's website which provides more detail. Residents are responsible for maintaining their own nature strips. Council's crews and contractors continue to work hard to maintain the areas that the City of Whittlesea is responsible for. We also publish our mowing schedule on our website, should you wish to view specific areas. Council does have a zero-tolerance approach to dump rubbish and has significantly increased patrols, reviewing of our surveillance footage and sifting through dump rubbish to identify those responsible, with fines and enforcement action taken against those doing the wrong thing. We're happy to follow up directly with Matthew in regard to any specific concerns. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, CEO. No petitions or joint letters have been received for this council meeting. So if we now continue to work through the agenda and move on to item 5.1, proposed amendment C275, local policies update to clause 13.07-1L, display homes, clause 19.02-1L, medical centres, and clause 19.03-5L, materials recycling centre. And if I could introduce our Director of Planning and Development, Emma Appleton, and invite her to briefly introduce this item. Thank you.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. We're delighted tonight to present you 3 updated local policies for your consideration, as we've discussed, for display homes, medical centres and material recycling centres, and we seek your approval to submit the amendment for authorisation to go out through formal consultation. I'll hand over now to Catherine Smith, Coordinator, Planning Policy and Implementation, to take you through the policies in more detail.
Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. Thank you, Chair. The 3 policies that are the subject of this report were reviewed following recommendations made by the 2018 Planning Scheme Review. A number of the recommendations made by this review have already been addressed in a separate amendment, C249, which was approved for submission to the Department of Transport and Planning at the June Council meeting. This amendment updates 3 of the 5 local policies identified as being due for review, these being, as Emma identified, the display homes, medical centres and material recycling centre local policies. The changes aim to ensure that future developments are in line with community expectations, in particular by minimising off-site impacts like noise and dust that may result from the 3 land uses that are subject of this amendment. The purpose of this report is to seek your authorisation, from the Minister for Planning to commence exhibition of the proposed amendment, and the policies will then be brought back to Council for approval following consideration of feedback arising from this exhibition period. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Catherine. Administrators, do you have any questions in relation to this item?
No questions from me, Chair.
I also have no questions. So do I then have a mover for the officer recommendation for item 5.1?
I'm happy to move it, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. And a seconder?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. Administrator Zara.
Thank you, Chair. I think this is great work, and I congratulate our team on following through on what was an earlier set of recommendations. I think one thing to bring to the public's attention, and obviously encourage further examination of this matter through the exhibition process that's proposed and feedback through that process, is that there is a greater focus through the proposed changes on considering negative amenity impacts, including things like noise and dust. So the three categories are actually quite important, as was illustrated a bit earlier, and likely to be of, I think, material interest to those residents who live close by to some of those uses that we're proposing to give greater consideration in terms of amenity impacts. I just, in particular, point to materials recycling. Something that I anticipate to be an area of increasing use, if you think about the policy trends, with the emphasis on recycling as a part of commitment to greenhouse gas reduction, and also to a greater focus on recycling and reuse as part of our environmental, increasing environmental concerns and the way in which we address them. So I think these are all very welcome. They're all very much focused on key areas that the Council has had as a high priority in terms of local amenity and the consideration of planning matters really through a more sort of holistic lens. So these developments are very welcome, and just through you, Chair, I just encourage those people who might be tuning in tonight to take the time to have a read through these policies as proposed and the amendments, and we would very much welcome their contributions to the further community engagement processes that have been outlined.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. Administrator Duncan?
No, Chair, I think Administrator Zara's summed it up perfectly.
Could I only just pick up on a little bit further from Administrator Zara's comments by really saying, obviously, this is only the first part of the process to then go to the Minister for Planning and then approval to prepare the amendment for exhibition. But I also just wanted to echo the fact that this is not just a review. I think the attachment 5.1.1 clearly indicates the scope of the rewriting, and there's some really important policy issues that underpin the proposed redrafting. Administrator Zara talked about materials recycling, but equally with display homes, the very fact that we're recommending that there's the option to transition to residential use once those display homes are no longer required. Some really important issues for our community. So I just wanted to echo the comment that it's really great work by council officers, including review of the relevant VCAT rulings that apply in these specific policy areas. So I'll now put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you. Item 5.2, Integrated Strategies, Connected Communities, Long-Term Infrastructure Plan and Livable Neighbourhoods. And there'll be two officers actually introducing this item, our Director of Community Wellbeing and our Director of Planning and Development. And I just wanted to perhaps note at the outset, I do have the discretion, in accordance with our governance rules, to allow additional time for officers to speak. So I will use that discretion to allow up to 4 minutes to officers to introduce this item, given the scale and scope of this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Tonight we are presenting 3 strategies: the Connected Community Strategy, the Livable Neighbourhood Strategy and the Long-Term Community Infrastructure Plan for your consideration. These 3 documents contribute to City of Whittlesea's integrated planning framework, which expands on our Whittlesea 2040 community vision, A Place for All. These strategies are closely aligned and identify priorities to enable livable neighbourhoods and connected communities through coordinated and innovative service provision, provision of timely infrastructure, and the planning and design of great places. More specifically on each strategy, the Connected Community Strategy outlines Council's commitment to ensuring the City of Whittlesea is a place where all community members feel included, welcome, safe, that they have opportunities for social connection and are able to access services they need to support their health and wellbeing. The Livable Neighbourhood Strategy is about creating and maintaining neighbourhoods that are attractive and well planned, with open spaces and town centres that are convenient and vibrant places for the whole community. The Long-Term Community Infrastructure Plan uses a place-based and principles approach to prioritise community infrastructure across the whole municipality over the next 10 years. It responds to a number of issues, including our significant population growth, our diverse and changing community, and numerous policy reforms that are happening at the moment. I will now hand over to Emma to explain how the community were engaged in the development of the strategies and how it's shaped the strategies.
Thank you, Agatha. So the community and stakeholder engagement was undertaken also through an integrated process from May to October this year to reflect the close alignment of the strategies. Information was drawn from extensive engagement undertaken as part of Whittlesea 2040, A Place for All, the community plan, from household surveys and a community focus group, which met twice through the development of these strategies. All of those earlier documents informed stage 1 of the consultation process from May to August this year. Following endorsement of the draft strategies by Council, stage 2 consultation included numerous pop-ups at many locations across the municipality, focus groups for community and stakeholders, online and hard copy surveys, and promotion through local media. We were very interested to ensure that the traditionally underrepresented groups had opportunity to participate, including the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community. And we also undertook targeted engagement with advisory groups, including the Whittlesea Disability Network, the Interfaith Network, Youth Advisory Committee, local sporting clubs, and the Business Advisory Group, to name a few. This is all covered through the report. The feedback was very valuable. It informed the finalisation of the strategies. There was overall very strong support for the 3 strategies, with over 90% of respondents supporting each strategy. Main themes that emerged included such things as ensuring equitable access to council services and facilities, enabling participation across all life stages, timeliness of infrastructure provision, maintenance of existing public spaces and facilities, ensuring places were made accessible, and also very big interest in housing density and diversity. Where appropriate, these issues were addressed in each of the strategies and will also be further considered if endorsed tonight as part of the action plans for each strategy. We thank the community members and stakeholders for their contribution and for the teams for running a very comprehensive engagement process, and we seek Council's endorsement of the 3 strategies this evening.
Nicely done. Thank you very much, Agatha and Emma, for the comprehensive overview. Administrators, do you have any questions in relation to this item?
I don't have any questions, Chair. Thank you.
No, Chair.
I've just got one brief question, and I think I know the answer to the question, but I just wonder whether you can indicate who actually drafted the 3 strategies. Were consultants engaged for that purpose?
The 3 strategies were drafted by council officers. We did get a little bit of external support for the original background paper to inform the Connected Community Strategy, but the draft and the final strategies were developed in-house by our officers.
Thanks, Agatha. Do I then have a mover for the officer recommendation for item 5.2?
Happy to move this one, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. And a seconder?
Happy to second it and reserve my right to speak. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. Administrator Duncan.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Agatha and Emma. This is an enormous piece of work, and I think the fact that we've had such a long consultation period in the community across a diverse group is the culmination of what this actually means now in practicalities. And I think it's very, very good that the council is looking holistically, but also integrating all of these things together, even though they're separate reports. So I think you should be commended on that, because it's a better look in that way instead of doing things in a siloed way. And I just would like to thank all the community that participated for, stepping up and giving us your feedback to make sure that we are making the right decisions and choices for everybody across the municipality, not just in particular areas. So outstanding work, and I'm sure the community will be very excited once we start to roll out some of the initiatives. So well done.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. Administrator Zara.
Thank you, Chair. I certainly endorse the comments made by Administrator Duncan. It is great work, and really through you, Chair, I think we really need to relay that to our team. I think one of the things that really stands out is the comprehensive nature of both the engagement with the community, but also the way in which these important strategies fit together to make up a whole, which makes a lot of sense. And is coherent, and so often the criticism of government, perhaps particularly local government, is people sometimes struggle to see how the different pieces fit together to create a whole and a clear strategic direction. I think these elements really do fit together, obviously in an important way, the three elements, but also contribute to that broader strategic direction that Council is setting. A couple of things to draw attention to is the 186 community contributions between May and October. That's actually a very high number, and I say to all of those 186 people through you, Chair, that their voices have been heard through this process. And in the council agenda papers, which are published online, people can see the way in which the various themes that they've contributed to in their feedback have been considered and acted upon, and in circumstances where that's not been possible, that's been made explicit and clear, and the reasons why not. So, for example, some matters that were raised were out of scope in the context of the particular strategic matters that were considered as part of these three integrated strategies. So through you, I thank them, Chair, and through you, I thank our team. This really is great work, and something I think our officers can be justifiably very proud of.
Thank you very much, Administrator Zara. I'm compelled to just say a few words, because these are just such important strategies that form, as my colleagues have said, they're key components of our integrated planning framework. These are the three remaining strategies that form the suite of 6 strategies. And I want to echo the comments of this just being really fantastic work by council officers across the whole organisation, but really picking up on enormous community contribution from a long period of time, including through Whittlesea 2040, but dedicated sessions as well. So the documents themselves are readable, plain English. They're really easy to navigate with really great graphics and infographics as well. So congratulations to all of you. And on that note, I'll put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you. Item 5.3, Contract 2023-100, construction of Plenty Road and Everton Drive signalised intersection. And if I could invite our Director of Infrastructure and Environment, Debbie Wood, to introduce this item. Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you, Chair. I have Morris here with our Unit Manager of Engineering, Design and Construction, and Morris will just quickly go through the report and the recommendations for us. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yes, the purpose of this report is for Council to consider the awarding of the contract for the construction of Plenty Road, Everton Drive, signalised intersection Mernda to build infrastructure proprietary for the sum of $5,847,373.55, excluding GST. These works are required to provide safe connection to Plenty Road from both Everton Drive and Station Lane, and will also serve as a primary access to the future Regional Aquatic and Sports Centre, or RASC. The scope of works for the contract include the extension of Everton Drive for about 90 metres to connect with Plenty Road, the construction of signalised intersection at Plenty Road, Everton Drive, Station Lane, public lighting, landscaping, drainage and utility services works. The project has many benefits, including social, cultural and health benefits of safe and direct access from Plenty Road to the existing Mernda Primary School and proposed RASC. The economic benefits including reduced travel times and fuel cost savings for local residents accessing the existing Mernda Primary School, Mernda Villages Shopping Centre and the proposed RASC. And environmental benefits, including the use of sustainable construction materials such as recycled crushed concrete and crumb rubber asphalt, and the reduction of the local carbon footprint through reduced travel time. Now, for this tender, 6 submissions were received, and the recommended tender is a local contractor, Build Infrastructure Proprietary Limited, which was evaluated to represent best value for council. The contract term is 12 months, commencing as early as this month, with project delivery over 2 financial years. And the communication and community engagement plan is currently being developed and will include information across multiple formats, including on-site advisory signage.
Thank you. Administrators, do you have any questions relating to this item?
No questions from me, Chair.
No, Chair.
If there are no questions, do I have a mover for the officer recommendation for item 5.3?
Happy to move it, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Zara.
Happy to second, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. Administrator Zara.
I'll be very brief, Chair. This is great work by our team, run a good process. We've got the highest rated bidder here. It just happens to be a local as well. So great work and much needed. And I think this will be something that people within that local community are very happy to see happening.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. Administrator Duncan.
Just to say that I'm thrilled that we're doing this properly in terms of sometimes organisations build things and you can't get in or out of it. So it's good that we're starting with the road project first so that we'll relieve congestion around that area. So well done.
Thank you. I'll now put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you. Item 5.4, Community Engagement Policy. And if I could ask our Executive Manager of Public Affairs, Janine Morgan, to introduce this item.
Good evening, Chair, and thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm delighted to be here tonight to present for your consideration a revised version of our community engagement policy following a period of consultation with our community. Under the Local Government Act, councils are required to have a policy that's used to guide genuine and meaningful community engagement. And our first policy was adopted by Council in March 2021, and tonight we're presenting an update of that for you for your consideration. And I'm delighted to hand over to our Unit Manager for Community Engagement, Kirsten.
Thank you, Janine. The updated community engagement policy aims to build trust between the community and council by demonstrating how opinions are sought, valued and considered in shaping the future of our city. The policy explains why and how we engage with our community and how that feedback is used. While the updated policy isn't substantially different in its intent to the original, it seeks to reflect the growth of the community engagement function at the City of Whittlesea. Key differences in this updated policy include a clearer focus on clarifying expectations and articulating our commitment to the engagement principles outlined in the Local Government Act. We've sought to be clear about our community's level of influence. Council will use community feedback to inform decision-making alongside other factors, including research, best practice, legislation, risk, budget, and of course specialist technical advice. The policy articulates circumstances where engagement may be limited or not appropriate and ensures all relevant legislation is referred to clearly. One of the goals for this second iteration of the policy is to further develop our consultation with traditionally harder to reach and underrepresented cohorts, including called communities, and people with a disability. We're also continuing our journey towards more deliberative practices. The draft policy was shared with the community for feedback from the 2nd to the 29th of October at 8 community-based pop-up sessions on the Engage Whittlesea digital platform and through broad internal consultation.
Sorry, could I just interrupt you and ask whether you would like an extension of time?
Yes, please.
Do I have a mover for an extension of time of up to... Oh, I will use my discretion and allow an extension of time
Thank you,
of
Chair.
up to 2 minutes.
The draft policy was shared with the community, as I mentioned, from the 2nd to the 29th of October at the 8 community-based pop-ups on the Engage Whittlesea digital platform and through broad internal consultation, with feedback being captured from 160 people. The feedback captured reaffirmed that the policy was in line with community expectations. Overall, 94% of participants in the engagement indicated their support of the draft policy. Most of the feedback received was quite detailed and specific and was actually already included in that draft policy. We have, however, made a few minor amendments to some of the language and style of the document. And with your support, we look forward to bringing this policy to life and continuing to deliver meaningful community engagement opportunities for the people in the City of Whittlesea. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kirsten. Administrators, any questions in relation to this item?
No, Chair.
None from me, Chair.
Could I just ask a quick one? Given the importance of this policy, I note within the officer report we indicate that we'll be publishing the policy on our website and on the Engage Whittlesea digital platform. Could we also consider broader promotion at our Whittlesea public libraries and also customer service centres here at South Morang and also our new Whittlesea Service Centre?
Yes, certainly we can do that, and we'll promote it broader to the communities across our other communication channels. So yes, we can certainly take that on board.
Thank you. Do I have a mover for the officer recommendation for item 5.4?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. And a seconder?
Second it, reserve my right to speak. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. Administrator Duncan.
Thank you, Chair. Just congratulations to Janine and Kirsten and the whole team. Obviously, we have done a lot of community engagement over the journey and continue to do so. I think that just always getting better and better at that and making sure that everyone has every opportunity to put their feedback in, and as you've said here, with enough time and in-depth feedback, I think is really good for the community, and hopefully it will allow others that probably didn't have time or wanted to give us more than just if we were a pop-up or those sorts of things, the opportunity to do so. So I encourage everyone in the community to look out for the sort of revised way we do some of the engagement. So well done to everybody, and hopefully a lot of the community will step forward when we call for feedback and on issues or things like that.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. Administrator Zara.
Thank you, Chair. I certainly echo Administrator Duncan's comments about the quality of the work that the team have been engaged in here. And through you, Chair, just thank those people who've taken the time to participate in the engagement process about this. Just a couple of things that I want to draw to the attention of those people that might be tuning in tonight in terms of key differences, which are actually identified in the Council agenda papers, which have been circulated and published online. Just a couple of things here I think that are really important, and I think really reflect credit on the work. So, in terms of key differences, a clearer focus on clarifying expectations and articulating Council's commitment to the engagement principles that are outlined in the Act. Being clear with the community around their level of influence. Community feedback is considered in decision-making but not the only deciding factor. Transparency around circumstances where engagement may be limited or not appropriate, and ensuring all relevant legislation is referred to clearly. I'll just pick up the second point in particular, Chair. Sometimes those of us who serve in public official roles will hear people say, you know, they should just send that out and we'll vote on it, and that's, you know, Council should just do whatever we say, or versions of that. You know, well, that's not right. And that's not the way decisions are made, at least not good decisions in public administration are made. We have to have regard to a whole lot of different things. So best practice, for example, getting a more representative group of people using deliberative processes to reach out to traditionally underrepresented groups. All of that is articulated here, as well as the limits, if you like, of what some of those processes might produce. So we're not giving false expectations to people. I really congratulate the team on their work in being so brave in doing that.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. Before I put the motion to a vote, can I just also indicate that I totally agree with the comments made by my colleagues. We adopted the community engagement policy in March 2021. We've now done a further review, and tonight's council meeting has got a number of council reports that are major strategic pieces of work, and we've very consciously been focusing on completing the full suite of those policies, looking at best practice, contemporary practice in advance of our departure at the council elections. This is just another one of those really important policy documents in that suite. And I note that it'll also be further reviewed and considered by the next council in December 2025. So I echo the comments of my colleagues to congratulate council officers on this, what I think is exemplary policy that goes far beyond the provisions of the Local Government Act. So thank you again, and I'll now put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you. Item 5.5, Council Policies for Recision. And if I could ask our Executive Manager, Strategy and Insights, Frank Joyce, to introduce this item.
Thank you, Chair. And following the recent endorsement of the Integrated Planning Framework strategies that occurred earlier tonight at tonight's council meeting, I'm really pleased to introduce Alessandra San Vicente, who's our Senior Corporate Planner, to talk to this item.
Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Council has embarked on a journey to consolidate its policies, strategies and plans under the Integrated Planning Framework, our integrated approach to planning and monitoring performance. The aim of the Integrated Planning Framework is to eliminate duplication of work and focus on planning and community outcomes. Additionally, the IPF seeks to maintain a smaller number of endorsed documents which more clearly articulate to the community Council's long-term vision and short to medium-term priorities under the 5 overarching goals. Following a significant review of the existing policies, strategies and plans, it was identified that 22 Council documents are no longer relevant to Council's function, as they were found to be either reflected in the connected community, livable neighbourhoods, strong local economy or sustainable environment strategies, better retained internally as corporate policies as they were operational in nature, or superseded by other existing policies, guidelines or legislation. Specific information on the rationale for rescission and where the policy positions have been retained is outlined in the table of the report. So we put forward the recommendation for Council to rescind 22 policies and strategies for the reasons outlined in the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alessandra. Administrators, do you have any questions in relation to this item?
Not from me, Chair.
No, Chair.
I wonder if I could just ask, in the critical dates section of the officer report, it says that the integrated planning framework will be finished by March 2024 to allow a smooth transition to an elected council. What remains to be undertaken?
So the last item is the Aboriginal strategy or Aboriginal action plan, which is being finalised early 2024.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a mover for the officer recommendation for item 5.5?
I'm happy to move that, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. And a seconder?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. Administrator Zara.
I'll be brief, but I understand that there's been an enormous amount of work done by the team. I'm so glad that they have done it so comprehensively and carefully. I just say to those people maybe watching tonight that really what this enormous piece of work is about is just putting these policies in their right place, in the best place for them to be effective, and for us to be very clear in where these documents are and the reason that they're in their different places. So it's a large amount of work to produce that effect, but it's also about simplifying and being clear with the community. As we were saying before, so often in public administration, things are not clear and there are so many things that becomes almost impossible for people to comprehend. So this is really what the work is about. Our team have done very, very good and I must say very close work. It's taken a great deal of close attention. So they're really to be commended, all about really simplifying and, as I said before, Chair, putting things in the most appropriate place for what they are.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. Administrator Duncan?
No, Chair. Administrator Zara's covered off on some of the things I was going to say, so nothing to add to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Could I just also take the opportunity to thank council officers for the enormous amount of work in developing the integrated planning framework and then in turn the Recision policies. And I just particularly wanted to highlight the fact that there's 6 pages of tables which clearly show what was the previous policy, the date it was endorsed, the rationale for the rescission and the new location. And I think that's really important from a public accountability perspective. So I also echo the congratulations of my colleagues. And I'll put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you. Item 5.6, unconfirmed minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee. And if I could ask again our Executive Manager of the Office of Council and the CEO to introduce this item.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. The unconfirmed minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee from the 15th of November 2023 are being presented to Council this evening for noting. The Audit and Risk Committee Charter requires the minutes of the unconfirmed minutes to be presented at the next available Council meeting. The unconfirmed minutes will then proceed to the Audit and Risk Committee meeting scheduled for February 2024. Of note, some of the reports that were considered by the Audit and Risk Committee were such matters as Council Strategic Risk Profile, Directorate Risk Profile, Procurement and Significant Contracts, Internal Audit Scopes and the status of actions arising from audits, and compliance and governance matters as outlined in the Audit and Risk Committee Annual Work Plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Administrators, any questions in relation to the minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee meeting?
None, Chair.
So do I then have a mover for the officer recommendation for item 5.6?
So moved, Chair.
Thank you, and I'm happy to second the officer recommendation. Administrator Zara?
Nothing really to add, Chair. You and I were obviously both in attendance at the meeting that these minutes relate to.
Thank you. I'll now put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Item 5.7, informal meetings of administrators. And again, if I could ask our Executive Manager, Office of Council and CEO to introduce this item.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. This report is presented to Council in accordance with Council's governance rules that were adopted at the September 2023 Council meeting. The attachments outline a summary of informal meetings of administrators, so the report is being presented for noting this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacinta. Any questions, administrators, regarding this item?
No, Chair.
None, Chair.
If not, do I have a mover for the officer recommendation for item 5.7?
I'll move that, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator
Happy
Duncan.
to second it, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. Would you like to speak to
No,
the
thanks,
item?
Chair.
No comments from me either, Chair. Thank you.
So I'll now put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you. I note that there are no notices of motion. Administrators, are there any items of urgent business?
No, Chair.
So if we move on to the reports of council representatives and the CEO update, and Administrator Duncan, could I invite you to make a brief report to council and members of the public?
Thank you, Chair. So I've attended 2 council briefings, but also had the absolute pleasure to attend the Staff Recognition and Years of Service event that was held here on the 6th of December, and it was fantastic, and congratulations to everybody, by the way. And then today with yourself and Administrator Zara, we did the coffee with council at the Pacific Epping Shopping Centre, which was great. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of Administrator Duncan? No. So if there's no questions, Administrator Zara, I now invite you to provide a brief overview of to the public and to the council.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, we've attended briefings together as the council, and as my colleague, Administrator Duncan, has mentioned, we had the pleasure this morning of attending coffee with council, where we had a good number of local people through, and as always, that was stimulating, and hopefully we were able to answer some of those questions that arose from the community as well in terms of things that we're doing and our plans for next year and the remainder of our term as administrators.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. Any questions of Administrator Zara? No. So just if I could also note a few additional items to those that my colleagues have already noted. I had the privilege of attending the last meeting of the Business Advisory Panel, which is a group of local businesses representing various sectors and a really great source of information to council across a whole range of different subjects. I also had the pleasure of attending the Norris Bank Reserve upgrade opening along with Minister Colin Brooks. And the only unfortunate thing about that opening is it was shocking weather, wasn't it, CEO? And we got somewhat drenched, but it was amazing to see the upgrade to Norris Bank Reserve. I also had a meeting of the Yarra Plenty Regional Library Corporation Board in conjunction with our Director of Community Wellbeing, and also had the meeting of the Northern Councils Alliance along with our CEO, and it was the first meeting of the new mayors of the Northern region, so it was a good opportunity to meet with those mayors and look forward in relation to some of our advocacy and collective efforts. And then I already highlighted my attendance at Carols by Candlelight. That was an absolutely magnificent event and a great honour to be in attendance that evening. And I'm happy to respond to any questions that you might have, administrators.
No, Chair.
I'll then ask the CEO to provide an update to both the council and members of the public.
Thank you, Chair. Earlier this month, it was my pleasure to join the member for Thomastown, Bronwyn Halfpenny, to turn the first sod on the second stage of the Whittlesea Public Gardens redevelopment. The $2 million project will deliver a 100-metre-long street-style skate park, 2 half-court basketball courts, rock climbing wall and much, much more. There's also a whole load of amenities being installed as well, including shelters, barbecues, seating, fountains, paths, lighting and landscaping. The project's set to be completed in mid-2024, and that will complement the fantastic playground that was completed earlier on in the year and is proving very popular. Council made a $1.35 million contribution to that project, supported by a $650,000 grant from the Victorian Government's Growing Suburbs Fund. Tomorrow we'll be officially opening improved facilities at 2 of our local community sporting centres, We've just completed a $300,000 upgrade to the softball practice nets at the Mill Park Recreation Reserve, and the new enclosed nets and associated lighting will meet the needs of members there for years to come. And Council has contributed also $120,000 towards the project, with $180,000 coming from the Victorian Government's Local Sport Infrastructure Fund. Tomorrow we'll also be unveiling the new $2.25 million synthetic soccer pitch at Harvest Home Road Recreation Reserve in Epping, and that pitch replaces one laid in 2008 and will help the Whittlesea Rangers Football Club to grow its female and junior programs. Council made a commitment of $1.75 million towards that project, and that was supported by a $500,000 contribution from Sport and Rec Victoria's World Game Facilities Fund. We've recently marked 1 year of glass recycling at the City of Whittlesea, being the first Metropolitan Council to introduce that service. In that time, we've recycled an incredible 2,132 tonnes of glass. That's more than an Olympic-sized swimming pool of glass. Glass recycling allows old bottles and jars to be given a new life, contributing to the circular economy. Sorting, recycling and manufacturing of the glass is all done here in Melbourne. Whilst residents can now also recycle some glass bottles through Victoria's new container deposit scheme, the curbside glass recycling service will continue to provide an avenue for other glass bottles to be received that are not acceptable through that scheme. You can find out more information on our website. And finally, I'd just like to acknowledge the contribution of Frank Joyce, our Executive Manager of Strategy and Insights. This is Frank's last meeting. Frank commenced with Council in January 2017 as the Manager of Corporate Accountability and Performance. He then joined our Executive Leadership team in 2021. Frank has led many important initiatives and improvements, all of which have benefited our community. Some of those include leading the 2017 to 21 and the 2021 to 25 Council Plan development. He led our Business Continuity Committee during the extended COVID crisis and also led the implementation of the Local Government Act. We congratulate Frank on his appointment as a Director at Mitchell Shire, where I know he'll continue to make a huge difference for their community as he has done ours. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you very much, Craig. I let you run over a couple of seconds because of the importance of the acknowledgement of Frank. Are there any questions of the CEO?
None, Chair.
No, Chair.
If there's no questions, I just perhaps on behalf of the administrators would also like to acknowledge the enormous contribution of Frank Joyce over a number of years and certainly the huge amount of support and advice that he has provided to administrators since we've been appointed. So we wish you well as the new Director of Corporate Services at the Shire of Mitchell, and no doubt we will continue to have an ongoing relationship with you, albeit at the Shire of Mitchell. Thanks again, Frank. I note again that all of our verbal reports will be documented in the minutes. We now do need to move into confidential business, and administrators, I require a motion to close the meeting to the public under section 66(2)(a) of the Local Government Act 2020 for the consideration of confidential items. Item 9.1.1, Growling Frog lease extension, and item 9.1.2, 2023-1, garden bed contract variation. Do I have a mover to close the meeting for consideration of confidential items?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. And a seconder?
Seconded, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. I'll now put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. That brings us to the end of the open meeting, and therefore I close the open meeting at 7:29 p.m.